Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Gulf Business Academy. Mark Dickinson with you, and today I'm really excited to introduce you to Mohamad Ballout. Mohamad is known as Mo, runs a brilliant company called Kitopi, and he's going to share with us what that organization does. Mo, welcome on board, and please go ahead and tell us what you do.
Thanks for hosting me, Mark. So I co-founded a company called Kitopi 2 years ago. We are a managed cloud kitchen business, which means that we cook and deliver on behalf of brands. Think of us as franchising 2.0. So we started the business in the UAE and grew it across the GCC and across the West. We're in 6 cities, over 5 countries, and excited to keep growing in this new digital age.
So which cities are you in?
So we're in the UAE, so Dubai, Abu Dhabi, we're in Kuwait, we're in Riyadh, we're in London, New York, and about to set up Jeddah and other cities across Saudi Arabia too.
Brilliant. And so what exactly would somebody understand your business to be?
So think of it this way. So if you were a brand in New York and you wanted to open up in Dubai or Saudi Arabia, any of the cities we're in, your options are either I'm going to go do it myself, right? So I'm going to go own a restaurant, build a kitchen, and incur all the CapEx costs. Or I'm going to find a franchisee who's going to replicate that and do it on my behalf. But the reality is, because most orders these days are coming through online food delivery platforms, there's very little margin left to squeeze out between aggregator, franchisee, and franchisor. So what ends up happening is franchising globally is at an all-time low. And so that avenue of growth has now been severely affected. So we see the third opportunity for you to grow is through Kitopi, which is franchising 2.0. So you license your brand out to us, and we cook and deliver on your behalf. A typical kitchen will have 30 brands, and we replicate what you do across all the kitchens we're in. So in a matter of a couple of days, you could be in New York, you'll suddenly be live in other cities that we're in.
Sorry, you could be in New York?
Yeah, so imagine that you are a brand in this part of the world, or you're in China or anywhere else. It's really giving you the opportunity to grow without CapEx, but also without any OpEx.
So there's actually no restaurant. There's a kitchen, there's a physical product packaging and all of those things, and that makes the restaurant.
Exactly. So if you were, think of it across other e-commerce verticals. If you were buying fashion products, or if you were buying electronic products, you're not manufacturing these products in every country, right? So third-party fulfillment existed across other e-commerce products. But in food, no one has actually cracked it and allowed third-party fulfillment in food. And that's exactly what we're doing.
So where did this spark come from?
So 4 years ago, I sold my last business. I was in confectionery white label manufacturing. And that taught me a lot on the world of automation and white labeling. So sold that business, was about to invest in the food space. It's a passion of mine. And realized that restaurants have it very difficult to scale. So if a restaurant wanted to scale, it wouldn't have the right payback. If it was to build it itself, it's very complex, operationally complex to replicate what they do. And so I thought, you know what, in confectionery, when we were white label manufacturing for others, no one had to build factories. They just licensed the brand out to us. Why did no one take that logic and apply it to food? And so that's how we started. I went to a couple of my friends who were amazing in kind of their space. So Sam, who's my partner, is it's his 4th tech startup. And I wanted someone to really kind of bridge the gap between the offline and online world and make sure that we digitize the entire business. And so that's how we started.
Brilliant. And what's been the greatest moment so far?
Look, there's been multiple amazing moments, but there's this kind of light bulb moment where Sam and I were sitting with our executive leadership team, could be 2 weeks pre-COVID-19 days. And we looked around and literally every single member of that leadership team were smarter than us. And that's when we're like, wow, we were able to inspire and attract such amazing talent aboard. And it definitely made us feel very proud.
Amazing. So, okay, we're in the middle of this Corona crisis, and most of traditional restaurants are closed down or doing delivery. However, this is not going to last forever. It's going to come to an end, and there's going to be something else. What comes after this crisis?
So, we look through this issue constantly. We're trying to think through it and what is consumer behavior in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, etc. And I do think that there's some initial insights coming out of China. What I can tell you is our view is the digital age is here to stay. So you will only be ordering online more frequently. So there's a lot of people who weren't adopters of digital ordering of food are now forced to move into it. I don't think people are going to go back into eating in restaurants anymore the way we used to. So trends are going to be towards digital only brands that you can trust. Right? So trust is a big thing. You're less likely to try a new brand given the trust component of food safety, etc. And the third is affordability. So I think that consumption is going to go down, and just given that in markets that we operate in, either unemployment shot up or just overall salaries got a major slash on them. So I think that consumption is going to go down and people are going to trend towards much more affordable eating.
Interesting. And so what kind of structural effects is that going to have on the way that you do business? Is it going to affect the business model that you have?
Look, that's a big topic, but I can tell you is on a people side, we're still interested to hire the best talent out there, right? And that's something we feel that our business model is more resilient than other sectors, particularly in F&B and hospitality. And I think what we do is more relevant now than ever. I think on a growth perspective, we're definitely not growing at any cost. So growing profitably is a key part of how we want to grow moving forward, given the fundraising landscape. So I think that kitchen growth will be much more assessed. Locations we grow into. So like, will we grow more in the US versus other cities is something we're looking at, given that the uncertainty in the US is much higher than uncertainty in the UAE, for example. So we're reassessing our geographical footprint. We're reassessing the org chart at Kitopi, and what do we need to serve the consumers post-COVID-19. And more importantly, we're relooking at what our priorities are. So operational excellence now comes at the top priority of how we're thinking about the next 12 months. And I think that the customer is going to determine who's going to win and come out of the storm the strongest. And we want to make sure that we're delivering on that from an operational excellence perspective.
And on the executive level, who is going to be the strategic team as you go forward after the crisis? Is it going to be the same people?
Yeah, so I think that's something that this team has been, for the past 30 days, every single day, been completely on top of every event that happened. We were in 5 countries, managing 1,500 people, and so many people have been impacted by this in different ways. Our brands have been impacted by this. Our aggregator partners have been impacted by this. So just maneuvering through the storm is something that this leadership team has done a really great job in, and keeping our stakeholders, such as our investors, fully aligned with what we're doing has been something that has been a real team effort. So yeah, we're all here to stay.
And how will the management of expenses and costs change at the end of this?
So again, if you asked me this question 8 weeks ago, our number one priority is growth. And it's about really maximizing market share in every city we're in and growing exponentially fast. While I still believe that businesses should take calculated risk, even in days like this, and should not enter a death spiral, I do think that focusing on profitability is a much more important priority today. So so the way we're looking at expenses is what can help us drive operational excellence and profitability, and that doesn't come just by cutting costs. Right? So there's so much more business needs to do to get that. So the way we look at the business is first outline what are our priorities. Given those priorities, how does that impact people? How does that impact all the other objectives we want to get to? And it's not just a cost-cutting exercise, because I think what tends to happen is if we can easily cut our costs down majorly, and you enter this death spiral that stops you from growing in the way you want to grow to, right? So I would like to think that our business is here to stay. So we're not in a risky sector. So it's just we have to look through the COVID-19 paranoia that's out there and look at what's going to happen post COVID-19 days and invest in that early on. So we are still taking on calculated risk.
What do you think's your game-changing idea or thought or decision that comes out of this period of time?
So I think one thing, this taught us to reflect much more on what is very important to Kitopi.
Nice.
And at the forefront of this all was our people. And I think companies globally, particularly Kitopi, have really understood the impact of our Kitopians in the kitchen, in delivery, who are coming in very strong every day and putting in the hours and not complaining about it. And I feel that if there's one thing that we are much more appreciative of, and is the importance of our Kitopians overall.
Nice. And what about your engagement throughout this crisis? Are you working more? Are you more engaged?
So look, for sure, I think the first month there was a lot of fires to put out globally for most businesses, us included, and spending time, whether it's like across different time zones, whether it's in the early morning or late evening, us speaking to all our stakeholders, particularly internal stakeholders globally, has meant that less sleep, more work. But I do think that we're very conscious of the fact that everyone is now working from home, which also means we have to have a boundary between coming online for a voice conference or a voice call versus spending quality time at home with your family,
right,
with your friends. So I think that's something we're conscious of. We're not perfect at, but it's something we're working towards balancing much better.
Brilliant. I want to focus a little bit on customers. So how do you see customer expectations changing as a result of the crisis?
So as I was telling you, 3 key trends we're seeing. One is customers will only go to brands they can trust. That's a key trend that we feel is you're less likely to adopt and try brands you don't know. Second is everything's moving online. Right? So everyone who used to order through a call center is now just ordering online. Everyone used to go into a restaurant to order from there or pick up. Everyone's just moved online. So I think the adoption to e-commerce, particularly in food, is there to stay. And then third, affordability. I think that this whole world of us giving a premium, expensive product is out, and one needs to understand that everyone's being much more cost conscious in what they're spending.
Great. And what do you see as values that used to exist, which they've just evaporated?
Across the industry, across Kitopi, across
Kitopi, across your business.
What are values that existed and no longer exist? Look, I think the expectation of, let's all work from the office and the importance of working from the office is now gone. And I think that if there's one thing this taught us is we can be 10 times more efficient working virtually than working in the office.
Right.
The importance of being and traveling to countries constantly has shown us that we can achieve a lot by just, connecting virtually. So less travel, I guess. And the importance of the people, right? I think that I want to go back to this topic that is really important. So while we always had one of our top 5 priorities is being the best place to work, I really think that there's a big component where that stopped and wasn't drilled down on a kitchen level. And they came out to be our true heroes. So one thing that Kitopi is definitely elevating and prioritizing is not just the safety and well-being of our kitchen staff, but how to make them an equal partner across the organization to the management.
Wow, that's fantastic. So the crisis ends and let's say there's a vaccine or there's a cure. What do people do to celebrate? How does that turn out at the end? What's going to be the outpouring of people? Are they going to go on the streets? What do you think?
I'm optimistic, and my co-founders are also equally optimistic that we will be coming out of this. It's going to be looking different to when we came into it. I think businesses like ours will come out very strong. Businesses that preserve a lot of cash or have a good cash position will come out strong. And I do think that remaining optimistic and having hope is going to help us, really continuing investing in this world. I think if we all come out pessimistic that we're not going to solve this, we're not going to all, work towards a solution overall. So I think that optimism is key. On our side, we're doing everything we can to remain optimistic, to be part of the ecosystem and active in it. So we're doing things such as we started by producing 20,000 meals and supporting people in need with those 20,000 meals. And we've now just elevated it to 100,000 meals. And it's doing things like that, small things that different people can do, that different companies can do that can help kind of bring this all in together. So while we're not a biotech, medtech business that can invest in vaccines, I think we all got to do our part.
Well, on behalf of all those recipients of those meals, Mo, I want to say a big thank you. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there would love to thank you personally. And that's really touching. That's amazing. Well done. So thank you for doing that.
I want to thank our team who are working hard to produce it. So all I'm doing is sharing the message, but the reality is the thanks goes to our team who are going to put in all the time to deliver this.
Brilliant. I want to wrap up with a surprise question. What are your 5 keys of leadership throughout this time?
All right, Mark, let me think about that. So 5 keys of leadership. 1, transparency, right? Letting everyone know what's happening all the time to the best of your knowledge is key. 2, don't panic, right? And I think that I'm not perfect at this, and the rest of my team are not perfect at this, but one thing we probably need to continuously do is be calm and lead without the sense of panic and just short-term thinking. So 3rd, I would say, is resilience. So resilience / optimism. So remaining optimistic that things are going to be better through a very thorough understanding of the new landscape. So just overall being optimistic and resilient to come out of the storm. 4th, I would say having a very good pulse on your financial well-being as a business, right? So we have a daily check, how much you spent, what are we, just overall P&L balance sheet pulse is something that I think I would encourage everyone to look at. That's something we're really good at, and we have a fantastic finance team led by our great CFO who are doing a great job there. And 5th, I would say, kind of linked to the first point is just like be an amazing communicator, right? I do think that the more you can communicate to stakeholders, whether it's your investors, your customers, your brands, so beyond just being open and transparent, just making sure you don't forget to communicate what's happening and not keep that message with the leadership team, but also cascade to different stakeholders.
Fantastic. Well, Mo, thank you so much for being with us here on Gulf Business Academy. We appreciate you taking the time. You're obviously extremely busy. So thank you. And thank you again for all the good things that you're doing for people and for your people. Really appreciate that.